She seemed to be slowly spiraling out of control. Then, in the early hours of August 13th, 2019, Andrea Knabel herself went missing.
My name is Andrea Knabel. I'm a private investigator for Missing in America.
Missing in America, it's actually a group of ladies that go out, we search for missing people.
We're contacted multiple times a day. We did love what we were doing very much. And then it all changed.
I'm very strong in analyzing and research. I'm good going undercover.
Andrea went missing.
Andrea Knabel was last seen here in the Ottoman Park area on August 13th, 2019.
A Louisville mother who dedicated her time to finding missing kids has been missing herself.
Tips keep coming in. Possible spottings of 37-year-old mother Andrea Knabel.
How do you have a person who goes and looks for missing people turn up missing?
It's not just another case. This is our friend.
One scenario is Andrea's disappearance had something to do with her working undercover.
This newest case, a rather dangerous case. The man missing was involved in criminal activity.
There's some pretty scary people involved.
Are we talking about cartels?
Andrea, I think, had different sides of her with different people. I was shocked. She was like a chameleon.
Downward spiral are the two words that we kept hearing about Andrea's life.
No one has seen this footage of her before now.
I'm risking my life. All you guys are risking your life.
We're looking for this young lady right here.
She's been missing for 17 months.
Yeah, she's been in here.
Oh my goodness.
Recently.
Missing in America founder Nancy says she now has the daunting task of not just searching for other missing people, but also a member of their own volunteer group and her best friend, Andrea.
Missing in America is a group of females who set out to find people who are missing.
This week marks a full year since a Louisville mother has been seen or heard from.
Andrea Knabel, who volunteered to help find missing people herself, is still missing.
Andrea and I actually met when one of her friends went missing. Andrea saved that girl's life. I was impressed with her abilities to do that, and eventually she really liked what she was doing and said that she wanted to become part of our group.
My name is Andrea Knabel. I'm a private investigator for Missing in America.
I consider her my best friend. She was my maid of honor. I got a phone call from one of our members, and she told me that Andrea was missing. I was literally in shock. I was panicking. I wasn't hearing anything from law enforcement. In order to effectively work a case, you have to be on the professional investigative side of it. But when it's your best friend, it's a hard juggle. No one wants to go through a wooded area and find your best friend in a bad way. So yeah, it is hard. I believe that there's people who have key information, and I want people to understand that even though they may love Andrea, I love her too. The last anniversary, the 2-year anniversary, hit me typically really hard. I miss her so much. This is hard, but I know she'd do it for me.
Well, Nancy, first, let me say thank you for the work that you started and are doing today. This is very important work that you're doing, and you guys are really good at it. The second thing I want to say is I'm sorry that your best friend is missing here, and I mean it's tragically ironic because here, as you say, you've got your best friend who's actually looking for missing people and goes missing herself. Do you believe she's alive?
Well, as you know, we brought in a retired homicide detective that I have a lot of respect for because of what involves potentially in her case that they have prepared me for that she's probably not.
Okay. So you're aware that it may be the case because of how much time has passed and you've not heard from her. Now, you made two statements that really found a little hard to wrap my head around. Okay. You said, how can someone who's looking for missing people go missing? Yeah. And then not long after that, you said there were a lot of scary people involved. Didn't you answer your own question?
You have to actually watch the whole thing. The case that she was describing was not a case with me. It was a case that she was working potentially with an outside other person, not particularly with me.
But she was going some places that were shady. She was looking in some shady places for some people that had spotty backgrounds at times.
Yeah, most of the cases that we handled were runaways.
But she was putting herself in some high-risk situations.
Everyone in my group puts themselves in high. I put myself at risk every day.
Yeah, of course. That's why I said it takes courage to do what you're doing.
But to go missing?
Yeah.
It's a little...
You mentioned that there's an investigator involved, and this investigator who has made some important discoveries is going to join us next. And later, we're going to hear from Andrea's family members who have very different thoughts about the case. I'm going to talk about that too. We'll be right back.
Andrea's a chameleon. She could shift personalities. I have to tell you, in 50 years of doing this is the most complicated case that I've ever been involved with.
And later, what is the most disturbing information that you've learned, Mike?
A woman that was trafficked said that she had seen my daughter. It was just so awful that you wouldn't even want to hear it.
Monday.
Did you call me a racial slur or not?
I don't have to answer the question.
Bruh, isn't that why we're here though, Dr. Phil?
You go on and talk, and when you're done, shut up and I'll talk.
Did you call her a racial slur?
It is not wrong to say something that is true. She said, hit me, James, hit me, hit me, hit me. That's obviously a ghetto thing.
At what point are you okay to hit a woman?
You don't pop a woman until she pops you.
That's Monday. Then on Wednesday,
her 14-year-old son was expelled from school for damaging school property, stealing a handicap sign, and posting it on social media.
Is mom to blame?
What was his punishment?
There wasn't one.
That's Wednesday.
A short while ago,
She was the same Andrea that I always knew until the end. I found out some things about her life that I was not aware of. The things regarding possible drug use, it was very shocking to me. At first, when someone told me that, I couldn't believe it. You know, I lived with her. I've never seen anything. I've never seen people coming and going from her house.
Well, I'm here with Nancy Schaefer, the founder of the organization Missing in America, a volunteer group that boasts a success rate of locating 98% of the missing people whose cases they have taken on. They do great work. But in 2019, one of their own, Andrea Knabel, went missing, so Nancy hired her friend, Joe Fanciulli, to help find leads in the case. Now, this is what he has to say.
my name's Joe Fanciulli. I'm retired law enforcement. I was involved in check frauds, burglaries, robberies, and then on to homicide. A few months after Andrea went missing, Nancy reached out to me on Facebook and told me about Andrea's case and the deeper I got involved in it, the more intrigued I became. I finally reached a point one day where I said, you know, let's go find your friend. As I talked with people, I found out about Andrea's involvement in the drug world. With social media, you take a deep dive into a person, you look at friend connections, and you find that Andrea has 3 or 4 Facebook profiles, different friend groups. I started finding some things that were very unsettling about the criminal records of some of these people. Andrea's a chameleon. She could talk in the boardroom or on the street. She could shift personalities. It's clear that she was involved in several types of activity that could put her at risk. I have to tell you, in 50 years of doing this is the most complicated case that I've ever been involved with. I liken it to the whack-a-mole game. It's because of the different lives she led, the different groups of people she was involved with, some of which could very well have put her at significant risk.
Joe, thank you for being here, and thank you for working on this as well. You said something that really struck a chord with me. You said in 50 years, this is perhaps the most complicated case that you've seen. And as you may know, I work with law enforcement locally, state, and nationally a lot. So that means a lot to me coming from you, that this is one of the most complicated, if not the most complicated case you've seen. What is it that makes this so intriguing and so layered?
It's complicated because Andrea had several groups of relationships in her life. She had family relationships, she had close friend relationships, and then she had relationships, I have to say, in the drug world, and with some people who had some pretty scary criminal background records.
So she kind of lived a double life.
She lived more than a double life.
Yeah.
She
Multiple lives.
Multiple lives.
From what
Yeah.
we realized, yeah.
Yeah, and what did you learn about Andrea just from her social media?
I learned that she did have this ability to move about through these groups and maintain friendships and sort of speak the language, walk the walk, talk the talk, which is what made her so good at looking for missing people. She could go into a certain location that maybe Nancy or one of the other ladies couldn't go into, and I certainly wouldn't be able to walk into and get information out of people.
Yeah.
Because she would morph into that whatever that slang was that was going on, or the look that was going on, and she was great at pulling
So she could
information.
blend in on the street, both in terms of the lingo and the look and the demeanor, whereas you signal cop wherever you go. I mean, you look like a cop from 50 yards away, no matter what. But she wasn't that way. And part of it was because she wasn't just playing a role. She was, as it turns out, was part of that culture.
Unfortunately, yes.
By being part of that culture, she did have relationships that could come back to bite her. And that may have been what happened here, is what we fear.
Absolutely. After I got involved, I found some people who had not been talked to before, some of whom had been waiting to be contacted. And people are like that a lot. They won't come forward.
Right.
But
You
once
ask
you
them, they'll tell
contact
you.
them, they'll talk. So
Yeah. Well, we put together a bit of a timeline, Joe, and help me with this. On August 12th, she left her mom's house at 9:01, and at 9:07, she went to a McDonald's. She was there for about 30 minutes. Then at 9:50, she arrives at the Kentucky One Health Medical Center. At 11:22, she leaves there, and at 11:34, she goes to her mother's house. Now, it rolls over to midnight, so that means it's now August 13th, and she goes to her sister Erin's house. And at 1:38, she leaves her sister Erin's house, and at 1:54, she arrives back at her mom's house, and then we jump forward now to almost 4 o'clock, which is the last time the phone showed activity at her mom's house. But then at 6:31, there's another ping on the phone, but not enough to track it. And that was the last activity that was seen on that phone. So somewhere between 3:53 a.m. and 6:31 a.m., that's when something happened. Is that what you surmise?
the problem is with this timeline, it was created by the private investigator who had custody of Andrea's computer for almost a month before it was turned over to the police. There are holes in that timeline. There were 2 separate trips that Andrea made to Erin's house that night. Not one, but only one of them is recorded in the timeline. We don't know where that phone was after 3:53.
Okay, you know where the phone was.
No,
that could
phone's
have been
gone.
Okay. All right. Well, we have a statement from Tracy Leonard. We continue to check out every single lead that comes in. We're trying to stay positive moving forward, looking at all aspects of the investigation. We aren't giving up. We're continuing to search for Andrea. She's a friend, a daughter, and a sister. She's not going to be forgotten. So that's what Tracy Leonard had to say. Now, what doesn't add up about what happened the night Andrea disappeared? We're going to talk more about that right after the break. There's not really cooperation among all the parties here. Why not?
I know that there are family members who have not been cooperative since the beginning, since the night that this occurred.
Was she on drugs that night?
From selling.
We're focusing this hour about missing mom and volunteer 39-year-old Andrea, who has not been seen by her family and friends for over 2 years. Now, I'm here with Nancy Schaefer, founder of Missing in America and best friends with this missing woman. Now, Joe is a retired homicide detective and is really helping on this case. Joe, you guys are out here without other parties, Sister Erin, for example, and there's not really cooperation among all the parties here. Why not?
I can't answer that question. I know that there are family members who have not been cooperative since the beginning, since the night that this occurred, and I don't know why. As I've interviewed people, as I say, who've come forward, they've told me about things that went on at the mom's house. A lot of fighting, a lot of arguing. There was discord there when Andrea was staying there. We know that she was locked out of the house that night when she got back from the hospital, couldn't get in. We know that she went back to Erin's house twice, trying to get help to get into the house. And
she was turned away from there as well.
Yes. And then got back to the mom's house and still couldn't get in. It's at that point that she started making phone calls and Facebook messages to people to try to come get her and help her. I don't have access to those records, so I don't know everybody that she tried to reach, but I do know some of the people she tried to reach. My fear is that she reached out to the wrong person, somebody she could not even have realized she was potentially at risk with in that drug world, and met with a problem.
Was she on drugs that night?
Specifically that night, I'm not sure.
No evidence.
No direct evidence, as Nancy says, but in speaking with people who were present that night about what her behavior was that day, with my experience, I'd have to say there was something going on drug-wise.
What's on her face here? These were on her face at that time, from what I understand.
I'm not aware of what was on her face at that time. I was in Pennsylvania for about 6 weeks.
Did you ever see her with these marks on her face?
I actually took some of those videos to send them some to people because we were trying to figure out what was going on.
Do you know what those marks are from?
They're symptomatic of meth. I've seen people with meth addictions that have sores like that on their face and constantly pick at them, which is something that Andrea did.
Well, Joe and Nancy had some differences of opinion in their search for Andrea with her family. I'm going to have to excuse the two of you to bring out the two of them, and I'm going to ask questions about why that is. So we'll be right back.
Things got a little dangerous.
We're looking for this young lady right here.
She's been missing for 17 months. We were knocking on really awful doors at midnight, but you didn't know what was coming out of there. Could have been a shotgun. They told her, you can't do this anymore.
Closed captioning provided by... We're talking about the case of Andrea Knabel, who volunteered her time searching for missing people until she herself went missing. Now, Andrea's father, Mike, and her sister, Erin, say they will never stop searching for Andrea, even though it has taken a toll on their family.
You don't comprehend it right away. Until Andrea went missing, I didn't know a single person who had a family member go missing.
I was deeply worried. Aaron was worried because there were no responses from any of Andrea's friends. So we started calling everybody we could, going everywhere that she had been that we knew. That's when we knew she was truly missing.
One of the things I would do almost every day when I got off work was go see my sister. So when you don't have that, it kind of makes you feel like, why am I here? It almost feels like your house is burning down. The thing that gives me hope is using the time that I used to spend with her, looking for her.
We're looking for this young lady right here.
She's been missing for 17 months. Things got a little dangerous a couple times. We were knocking on really awful doors at midnight with a flashlight and a flyer that you didn't know what was coming out of there. Could have been a shotgun. That's when I thought she was in danger. I told her, you can't do this anymore.
I want to help her, whether that means finding her and helping her recover from whatever she's been going through or getting her justice. But in the case that she's no longer with us, we want to know where she is so that she can be properly laid to rest.
Well, Aaron, Mike, it's good to meet you both. I'm sorry for the circumstance, and I really hate that you guys are having to go through this. I'm not going to tell you that I'm sorry for your loss because we don't know that you've lost her, but we know that you've lost her so far that she's missing, and that's worse than not knowing. It's worse not knowing than finding out one way or the other. Just being in limbo has to be terrible. What's this been like for you, Mike?
It truly is. I've read someone that described it as frozen or permanent grief.
Exactly.
An author wrote that, and it seems to be extremely accurate, and that's been my experience. It stays with you all 24/7.
Well, it's the number one stressor that you can experience in life, and being held in this state where you don't know, it's just like it never gets better, it never goes away, and it's terrible. And Aaron, you're not ever going to give up. You're going to find the answers, right?
Yes, definitely.
What do you think happened here?
Honestly, I'm worried that I know the way Andrea is. Like, she had a very big heart. She loved hard when she cared for someone. I felt like she was being taken advantage of a lot. So I think maybe someone might have taken advantage of her that night.
Yeah, it's very possible. And I know there's some things that you're dealing with. Erin is struggling with feelings of guilt for turning away her sister Andrea the night that she disappeared. Let's listen to what you had to say about this.
The night Andrea went missing, I was laying on the couch and I heard a knock at my back door, and Andrea was there and she was crying and she was asking me if she could stay. And this is something I'm always going to regret, like forever, that I didn't tell her yes. You know, I was tired and I was kind of stressed out, so I told her, like, just go home and rest it off. So when she left, I went in and looked out my kitchen window and I saw her looking down. It looked like she was texting or something. And that's the last time I saw my sister. For like maybe a year, I didn't use my back door at all, just because it would give me this crushing pain every time. It starts in my chest, and then sometimes I get like this burning feeling all over. I've never had grief so bad that it causes like those issues, and I just have a lot of guilt. Like, I can't help it. I just think, how would my life be different if I would have stayed up? I don't think there's anything that can make me feel better about what I did that night. It's something that I struggle with every day.
When you look back, things are really clear, but in the moment, in the time, you can't see what you see now, and you can't hold yourself in the moment to the standard of what you look back and see now. That's not fair to you. You wouldn't do it to someone else. You didn't have x-ray vision and you couldn't see. Was she high that night?
I'm not good at noticing that, I guess. I don't know. That's not something I've been around enough. I didn't think so.
What time was she knocking on your door?
The first time, I think it was around midnight, and then later on, I would guess around 1:30, I think. I was already kind of sleeping.
So something's not right. If somebody's knocking on your door at 1:30 in the morning, that's out of the normal flow. Now, the family says they learned some very disturbing information about Andrea, and I'm going to ask them exactly what that is and talk more about that right after the break.
Are we talking about cartels?
Did you know that Andrea said to Randy that she was planning to go undercover in that case?
Oh my God. She was a risk taker. Incredible risk taker.
Monday.
Did you call me a racial slur or not?
I don't have to answer the question.
Bruh, isn't that why we're here though, Dr. Phil?
You go on and talk, and when you're done, shut up and I'll talk.
Did you call her a racial slur?
It is not wrong to say something that is true. She said, hit me, James, hit me, hit me, hit me. That's obviously a ghetto thing.
At what point are you okay to hit a woman?
You don't pop a woman until she pops you.
That's Monday. Then on Wednesday.
Her 14-year-old son was expelled from school for damaging school property, stealing a handicap sign, and posting it on social media.
Is mom to blame? That's Wednesday.
Closed caption.
I was really close with Andrea, but I wish I would have known more about what was going on in her life. I've heard stories. She was investigating a missing persons case that was very dangerous.
I've heard some things from friends, and it makes me question how much I didn't know about her life.
A few people did tell me that she was doing drugs.
Everybody wants to know whether this person was involved in drugs. And if they are, they're written off immediately. I don't quite understand why people do that. And even if they abuse drugs, the person is still a person and worthy of redemption.
Every effort should be made to find Andrea. No holds barred, absolutely. What is the most disturbing information that you've learned, Mike?
I would say that a recent lead that came in about 8 weeks ago now was probably the most disturbing thing I've ever heard, and really the only time where I looked at Erin and she seemed crushed, and I looked in the mirror and I saw the same person that was crushed. But anyway, a lead came in where a woman that was trafficked said that she had seen my daughter in that same place, and then went into a vivid, horrible, the most horrible thing you could think of, description of her death. And it was all too real. And this woman was weeping, begging for forgiveness. I don't want a reward. I'm so sorry I couldn't stop them. And the type of death they described is, it's unimaginable. And something that I can't even say here. It was just so awful that you wouldn't even want to hear it. It's that bad.
Was she being held captive?
She described picking Andrea up near her mother's house. She described Andrea being plied with drugs. She described a potential attempted placing her in an attempted trafficking situation, and maybe resistance from Andrea. And they proceeded to abuse her, humiliate her, and beat her and murder her, and then worse after that I don't want to talk about.
Right. And I don't want you to, and I don't want you to go back through that in your mind, but I get the gist that she had been taken captive and held against her will, and this woman that came forward with this, has this been shared with the authorities as well? And is there any way to backtrack through this and try and verify any of this?
Well, that's the thing about it. We're not sure, but Erin and I immediately went to the FBI. Apparently this woman that reported Andrea's death was a known person, and there were some credibility issues. So that hasn't been resolved fully, in our opinion. And we're still looking for an answer for that.
Well, we've heard some theories about what could have happened to Andrea, and we're going to hear what the police have to say after the break.
Using 52 years of experience working cases and dealing with people and looking into their eyes when I talk to them, I've really come to two top theories of what could have happened.
Why hide without you?
Now that some of the COVID-19 restrictions have been lifted, we can have a studio audience back.
If you're going to be in the Los Angeles area and would like to attend a taping, go to drphil.com and click on Be Part of the Audience and select In Studio.
I met Nancy as well as Suzette when we were searching for a friend. We're trying to hit the streets, talk to as many people as we can. Hello, my name is Andrea Knabel. I'm a private I'm sorry. Okay, ready? Well, my strengths with Missing in America are I'm very strong in analyzing and research. Also, I'm great out in the field. I'm very street smart. I'm good going undercover.
Well, approximately 600,000 people go missing in America every year, and my guest, Mike's daughter and Aaron's sister, is one of those 600,000. Andrea Knabel disappeared in the early morning hours of August 13th, 2019, and now the questions have become, where is she, and is she still alive? That's what these folks want to know, and I just talked to her good friend from Missing in America, Nancy Schaefer, also to retired homicide detective. You guys are not working hand in glove together, the four of you. Why is that?
I'm willing at any point to start over and go back to how we were before and work together.
What fell apart?
There's people, since Nancy has been looking for missing people for a very long time, there are certain people out there that doubt her and say, mean things about her. And if they are willing to stop being negative and they want to help by maybe spreading awareness, like I just get over it and say, okay, I'll let anybody help, basically, is what I'm saying. And I think that caused some arguments.
Well, I've been doing this for over 45 years, and I'm telling you, nothing helps more than all hands on deck.
Yes.
And when you've got somebody like a 50-year experienced detective, I'll guarantee you he's forgotten more about breaking the code on these things than all of us together probably know. You'd want everything. I mean, Fanchuli knows things that can provide guidance and help, and everybody needs to be leading in the same direction here. And
I agree completely.
I think we should both work with them, and I think there's maybe a couple of trivial things that may have gotten loose on social media, and they should be just put behind us.
Yeah, I mean, can I broker a peace here, guys? I really want everybody working together. I want the best for Andrea, and I know the best for Andrea will come to pass much faster if all four of y'all are working together. Let me hear from you guys in the green room.
Absolutely feel the same way and have since the beginning. And I think the last conversation Mike and I had, the last thing I said to him was, I'm not going to go away. I'm not going to walk away from this.
Maybe start fresh here and see if there can be some new energy directed here with all four of you pulling in the same direction. I also have a statement from the Louisville Metropolitan Police Department. On August 17th, 2019, Andrea Knabel was reported missing by her sister Erin. The reported person stated the last known contact with Andrea was on August 13th, 2019, around 0000 hours. At the time of her disappearance, Andrea was living in the Audubon Park neighborhood along with her other sister and her sister's boyfriend. While investigating Andrea's disappearance, detectives interviewed family, friends, known associates, and any contacts she may have had that could help provide information in the case. Detectives have conducted area searches and followed up on various crime tips to include possible sightings and location of Andrea's whereabouts with no avail. Multiple search warrants have been executed during this investigation in attempt to retrieve and locate any evidence that could provide details into Andrea's disappearance. Detectives have also asked certain members of the family to consent to a polygraph examination, which they have declined to do so at this point. This investigation is currently ongoing and is classified as open and active. Any comment on anything they've had to say?
Well, as for myself, I can say I'll gladly take a polygraph at any point in time. I'll do whatever it needs to be done.
Like, any comments?
The same. We're open and ready to do any of that it takes. We always have been.
Listen, I want everybody to know that if you have any information about this, call the Louisville Metro Police Department Missing Persons Division. You can do it at 502-574-7120. Mike, Aaron, I want to thank you guys for coming here and talking about this. Nancy and Joe, I want to thank you, and I want to thank the four of you for being willing to sit down and rejoin forces. Andrea deserves that. And don't forget to check out the Discovery Plus docuseries, Finding Andrea. The first 2 episodes of the 4-part series will be streaming today, with others dropping weekly on each following Friday, October 22nd and October 29th. Maybe something there will trigger your mind. So please watch that. See if there's anything there that helps you. I want to note that many of the claims and theories expressed by the guests today are speculative, and they've not been proven in a court of law. Now, switching gears, we're going to talk in a few minutes about whether or not you're married to a narcissist or work with one. I'm going to tell you how to spot them and how to handle them, because they are everywhere. We'll talk about that when we come back.
Hi, folks. Joe Namath.
You'll get weekly updates, live strategies, and exclusive video that you won't find anywhere else. Plus, on drphil.com, you can see sneak previews of upcoming shows. Log on today. I have a question for virtual audience as well. How many of you think that you have a narcissist in your life? Raise your hand if you think you have a narcissist in your life somewhere. Well, if that's true, then you ought to make sure to subscribe to the new season of my podcast, Fill in the Blanks. I'm launching a new mental health series called Toxic Personalities in the Real World. This is a series where I'm looking at the most pressing disorders that you have all been asking me about. In the first episode of the series that drops this Tuesday, October 19th, I talk about narcissistic personality disorder, how to recognize it, how to manage it, and live with it. And for many people, how to get along with it. Character Miranda Priestley, a perfect example of the narcissist, obsessed with physical appearance, cold, demanding, expected perfection, intensely critical of her employees if they fell short. Look, you don't want to miss this new series. It could very well change your life or the lives of those that you love. So remember to